up, Buncombe? It's Abby, and today I am here with Andy Nilsson, who is running for United States Senate. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Abby. Thank you.
Raise a flag of liberty, the land of the free, rejecting tyranny.
Great. We're so excited you're here. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing this for?
I am up here in Asheville today with the Buncombe County Republican Party to spread the good news about President Trump's America First conservative agenda and everything that it's delivering for our state and our country, and I couldn't be happier about that. I am from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I grew up there. I was in business for 30 years, retired from that a couple of years ago, and now I'm working the education field. I'm a football coach, and I work with exceptional needs children.
That's so great. What made you want to get into that?
I had been running plants and operations around the world in a variety of industries for 30 years. And I learned a lot, met a lot of great people, was involved in the production of a lot of different products and items, but I just kind of got tired of it. I did well in it, well enough that we paid off the house, put the kids through school. But then I decided I wanted to do what I really love to do in this kind of last working phase of my life, and that is to coach high school football. And so I've been a coach for about 10 years, but a couple years ago I got a job offer to coach football at R.J. Reynolds High School in Winston-Salem, which is where I graduated from 40 years ago this year. And in doing that, I also accepted a position to work with exceptional needs children. And so I do both those things, and I love it. I didn't foresee 30 years ago that I would go into education, but I have, and it's great.
That sounds great. So you say you're a football coach. I can barely throw a ball in a straight direction. What made you decide to get into football?
It was my sons mainly. I've got one son who's a wide receiver. He goes to school at Catawba College in Salisbury, North Carolina. He's a receiver there. And I got another son who's a quarterback and who's a JV coach, head coach. And it was when they started to play that I realized that the love of the game that I have had my whole life, I wanted to utilize that as a coach. I've been a coach kind of in different ways in business for 30 years. I owned my own business for 15 years, a furniture business. And then outside of that, I ran plants and operations in lots of different industries. And in doing that, I've literally worked with thousands of people. I've had some really good people, coaches who coached me, and then I was able to coach people also. And in doing that, I learned that there are certain kind of common principles about coaching and leading people, whether it's in business or in the classroom or on the football field. And so 10 years ago, I started coaching high school age football, and I love it, and that's what I'm doing now.
Great. I love that. How do you think that the discipline it takes to play a sport like football, how do you think that's shaped you as a person?
I think that it provided me, and it provides young people with a couple of really core critical values. One is selflessness. When you're part of a team, it could be a football team, could be any other sport, it could be a business, could be a political movement. It's not just all about you. It's about everybody in the team pulling together, because we're really only as good as the people that we're working with.
Yeah.
And I saw that in business over and over and over again. So it shows how to put yourself second and put the cause or the principle or the team or whatever it is that you're involved with first. That's number one. Number two is hard work. And I've been working really since I was 15 years old, going to school, but then also working during summers. The first job I ever had was to recondition used cars when I was 16 years old, and had a lot of other jobs since then. But what being part of a football team, football program, any kind of organized activity, your production, your output is only as good as the effort you put into it. I'm coaching our football players about that all the time. You can't expect to get better and be better at practice and be better on Friday night if you don't invest everything you have into that. There are some players that come along that are naturally talented. We know them. You know, they don't really have to do much and they're still really good. But you know what? They are such a minority of players. Most players are young people who have to work to get better. And some of them don't ever become great. but they become as good as they can be. And that needs to be the motivation. And I love that aspect of coaching, seeing a young person go from being okay to great. And I've seen that time and time again.
I love that. Um, I played volleyball in high school, but I was always the bench warmer. So I say I played, but but I love that what you're talking about being a team. How do you think that shapes what you want to do in politics?
I think it reinforces the value, like I had said earlier, about putting yourself second and putting your principle or your values or the voters that you serve first. It really needs to be about everybody else before you. And I found in business and in coaching and in the classroom that when you live by that and you do that, then eventually people start looking at you saying, hey, you know what? I appreciate what you're doing. You're a natural leader. But the best leaders that I have ever known and the ones that have coached me the best are the ones that say the least, the ones that do the least. If you think about in volleyball, the coaches that you had, probably the best coaches you had, I don't know, but I suspect, the best ones that brought the best out of you, and they were not always center stage. They wanted you to be center stage so that you could shine.
Yeah.
And they equipped you to do that. That's what I have I tried to do in business, and I've tried to do as a football coach. Where it translates into politics is this. I take the whole representative role very seriously. I'm running for the United States Senate. Just because I'm doing that doesn't mean that I've got all the answers and that I know everything and that I'm always going to be right. What it does mean, though, is that in holding that position, I'll be representing an entire state.
Yeah.
And I think I know this state pretty well. My family came to North Carolina when I was 12 years old. I'm 58 now, so I think I know North Carolina pretty well. I know its values. I know its history. I think I've got a good idea about where it wants to go. But again, I'm only as good as what the people want and feel. And right now, I think we got a situation, not just with the incumbent that I'm running against, but with a lot of politicians, is that once they get elected, it's like, thank you, I don't have to do anything more with you. I'm now up here and I'm doing my own thing. And I'll just report to you from time to time if I feel like it. My whole philosophy on that is totally 180 degrees opposite of that. I want to go to folks first. I want to say, what do you think? How do you feel about this? Where do we need to go as a state and as a nation? I'll put that into the computer that I've got in my brain and try it and weigh that against my previous experience and values. And we'll come out with policies and with positions that I believe not only reflect the majority of views of North Carolina, but what's in the best interest of our state and our nation. And I happen to believe, and at this current point in time, that the best direction for our state and our nation is a conservative approach as outlined by our President Donald Trump. That's what I believe is the best direction for us. I can't comment on Senator Tillis's character. I don't know him. I've only met him a couple of times, and I assume that he's a perfectly nice person. That's never about that. What it's about is a voting history and a voting record.
Yeah.
And what we're finding and what we have found for years now is that Tom Tillis is one thing in D.C., someone else in N.C.
Yeah.
What he'll do is, especially when it comes election time, he and his organization and his people will project an image of him being a reliable 100% MAGA Donald Trump North Carolina conservative. And that's who he is, and that's who he will always be. Then the primary will come and go, and the election will come and go, and he'll get back in. He's been in for 12 years. He's going for 18. And what will happen then is that he will go back to making decisions, and this is just my observation, that are purely based on political calculation, on what's best for me or what's best for a narrow group of people. It could be donors, it could be lobbyists, it could be somebody like that. And as an example, I'll cite his vote for Merrick Garland for Attorney General. Joe Biden's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, he voted for him. I'll cite Pete Buttigieg, Transportation Secretary for Biden. Tillis voted for him. I'll cite every single federal judge nominee during the Biden years. Tillis supported all of them, every single one of them. I'll cite him working with Dick Durbin, who's a Liberal Democrat senator from Illinois, on amnesty for illegals. Now, Tillis, interestingly, didn't put his name on the legislation that ultimately resulted from that working together. There was another Republican named Jim Lankford from Oklahoma who put his name on it. But make no mistake, the one who wrote that legislation along with Dick Durbin was Tom Tillis on amnesty for illegals. So one thing in NC, one thing in DC, someone else in NC, he'll do all that, and then when it comes time to election, you think that there's no more conservative than him. I'm running because for two main reasons. Number one, I built in 40 years of my adult life, I'm 58, so in 40 years of my adult life, every relationship that I've had, whether it's family, the marriage that I've been married to my true love for 25 years, the only woman I've ever loved and the only one I've been married to, my sons, my church, my work record, the business that I owned, coaching and teaching. In all of those things in 40 years, I built relationships based on trust.
I like that.
And what does that mean? That means that the people that I've worked with, the hundreds and thousands of people that I've worked with, starting with my wife and my children and then extending out from there, know that when they work with me, they may not always agree with me, but when they work with me, they'll always get the facts stated as I know them, and that my word is my bond. And I've done it in all those different things for 40 years. Not that I'm not blowing my own horn. I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody else. But the reality is, I've never drank. I've never smoked. I've never taken drugs. I've never gambled. Never gone broke. I've never been arrested. I've never been sued. I've never been convicted. I've never been discharged. I've never even been in a courtroom as a party of a court case. I lead a boring life, but there are no skeletons. And I can tell you this right now, as a football coach and a teacher, I drive the activity bus, I drive the disability van. I've had more background checks than just about anybody I know, and nothing's ever been found because there's nothing there, because I'm just a boring person. I'm a boring person with a boring life, but there's no skeletons there, because everything that I've ever done has been built on a standard, working towards a standard. And that standard is, I said there was two principles when we were bringing up our sons, Joseph and David, and I said there's two things. Whatever else you do with your life is your choice, but I've got two things. Number one, never lie to anyone. And number two, never hurt anyone. What you do outside of that is your choice, but these are two things that you'll live your life by. I was able to present that to them because that's how I have tried to live my life. You contrast that with a style of politics that's represented federally and state and wherever else, where it is, what can I get out of this? How can I get some extra dollars? How can I get just the votes I need so that I can leverage those votes to get something I want later on? All this trading and bartering that goes on back and forth. Never really know where someone stands. Always suspecting that they've got an ulterior motive. That is the style of politics that I feel, that I believe, is the biggest problem in America right now, and is the main reason why I'm running. Second reason I'm running is Tom Tillis can't beat Roy Cooper. And that's going to be the big question for next year. Who can beat Roy Cooper, our former governor, run 7 times, won 7 times? Who's going to beat him? You can't beat Roy Cooper with another insider, because Roy Cooper's the total insider. And you're going to put another insider against him. Not going to work, number one. Number two, you can't beat Roy Cooper as a conservative Republican if you haven't got conservatives. And we're the third time being asked as conservatives to get behind Tillis. They're not going to do it. They're going to stay home. You know, there's an old saying, which you've heard, fool me once. Fool me once, shame on me. But folks, we're being asked to get fooled 3 times now. And conservatives aren't going to get fooled 3 times now. They'll stay home. So Tillis is going to go in if he gets nominated against Cooper. Without the conservatives, as an insider, as a career politician, running against 7-time undefeated former Governor Roy Cooper, he ain't going to win. Tom Tillis is not going to win. We'll lose that seat, if we even had it. We'll lose that seat, and we'll get Roy Cooper in as senator. That's the other reason why I'm running.
What do you think is going to be the biggest issue, the biggest turning point in this election coming up, trying to win this seat from Cooper?
Are you talking about the primary or the general election against Cooper?
Yeah, the general win. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that as the Republican nominee, which I'm hoping to be, there are 4 things that I'll run against Governor Cooper on. And they go like this: Matthew, Florence, Helene, and COVID lockdowns. I'm going to run against Roy Cooper on 4 things: Matthew, Florence, Helene, and COVID lockdowns. 3 hurricanes that were incredibly and totally mismanaged, where there was people that were put in temporary housing, even from Florence and Matthew, that still haven't gotten permanent housing. With Helene, which everybody in Western North Carolina lived through that and knows everything about that. But here, this was a very revealing fact to me. When President Trump got into office and was sworn in and appointed a new FEMA director, and that FEMA director was interviewed, and the FEMA director was asked, what do you think about Western North Carolina and what has happened with Helene? You know what the first thing that new FEMA director said was?
What?
It was her, and she said, I can't believe that there was never a single point person, like a czar, a hurricane czar, for us to go through on Helene. Governor Cooper never appointed one person to be the traffic cop to deal with the FEMA and the National Guard and the military and all the nonprofits that was coming in providing support and everything. There should have been one person, like a czar, like a general or something, to come in here and direct it all, and Cooper never did it. Now Stein got in, Stein picked somebody, and incidentally Stein closed the state version of FEMA. The state version of FEMA had lost $300 million, which they never could account for. So he closed it. He closed the entire thing, and they still hadn't found the money. And Stein went ahead and he acknowledged that Cooper was wrong because he appointed one person as a point person. Too little, too late. Roy Cooper is going to answer for that. As the conservative Republican nominee, I'll see that Roy Cooper answers for that. He's going to answer for Matthew and Florence, where there was people in eastern North Carolina that still have not even got a permanent housing. 6 and 12 months after the storms have still not even. So he's going to answer for that. And then finally, and perhaps, I'm not going to say most importantly, all those storms were bad, but to me this is something that's very close to my heart because my family suffered like so many others did. He's going to have to explain to the voters in North Carolina why he shut our churches, why he shut our businesses, why he turned people's lives upside down. He's going to have to explain. This is something that's very interesting. When I work in the high school, I work with exceptional needs children. And I do everything from math to reading to English to social studies to everything because they get me to go in and help kids who are behind in their work. I'm going to ask Governor Cooper, as soon as I'm nominated, I'm going to ask him how he thinks our North Carolina high school students are doing after COVID lockdown. I'm going to ask him if he has any idea how behind they are in reading, how totally behind they are in math. This blows my mind. I was working with a kid last week. This is an 11th grader, a junior. This kid this is a smart kid. He's got some behavior issues. There's a lot of kids that do. We're trying to work through that. But this is a smart kid. I am literally teaching this kid how to add and subtract again. Not again, for the first time. He had never learned it. And we're talking 10 plus 17. We're talking 12 plus 9. Could not do it. Cannot do it. Like so many other kids, and they was locked at home, having to get on their computers, if they even did that at all, which most kids didn't, the quality of the instruction was abysmal. They got forgotten. They fell through the cracks. Why? Because the number one priority for Roy Cooper and for who was the Surgeon General guy that Fauci and all of them, the number one priority was what? Their number one priority was to follow through on an agenda was completely untested without any facts or substance behind it. It was all on conjecture. It was all on guesswork. And they were thinking that we need to put masks on everybody. We're thinking we got to pull them out of school. We're thinking that we got to do all. They were guessing all along. They never knew. And they went to the most punitive, most restrictive, most locked down option. Every single time they did that. Every time they did that. As your nominee, as your conservative Republican nominee running against Roy Cooper, the very first time I get to talk to him, I'm going to say to him, how do you feel about closing the churches and the workplace and the schools? How do you feel about that? You feel good about that? Think we did the right thing? I'll do that. I will ask that.
I can't wait to find out what his answer is, because I know that was uncalled for completely. It was unconstitutional.
It was unconstitutional. It was blatantly unconstitutional. It was damaging to so many people. It was poorly thought out. It was a knee-jerk response. I don't know if he or other people have got ulterior motives. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But I'll tell you this right now, and I'm sorry to say this. I got friends who are in the legal profession. My brother was a lawyer. I got families that's all good. You got to have lawyers every now and then. But I tell you what, we got too many lawyers in government. Too many lawyers in government. And when you take a lawyer, a career lawyer who's never done anything, and a public service lawyer, no less, and you put him in first in the governor's chair and then in the United States Senate, and you get them making decisions like that, you know what you're going to get? You're going to get more lockdowns. You're going to get the same kind of surface level, not deep thinking. You're not taking in the big picture. You know who does that better than anybody is Donald Trump. Donald Trump sees the big picture. People are freaking out now on tariffs and trade, but they don't understand what he's doing. What he's doing is being a businessman. He's doing a negotiation.
Art of the deal.
Art of the deal. What's going to happen at the end of the negotiation is America's going to be better off. Everybody who works is going to be better off because we're going to have jobs coming back here. We're going to try and correct the scale to what it had been before. The whole store was given away before. They didn't care because you know what? America was the richest nation in the world. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to give a whole lot of that wealth to everybody else, while folks here suffer and are out of jobs. But don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Let's just make sure that China gets a complete and free access to our market without hardly ever buying anything that we sell. Japan, Europe, look, they're nice people. I know a lot of people from those countries. It's not about the people. It's about the fact that they won't buy our cars and our trucks. We make perfectly good vehicles, and they won't ever buy them, as well as a lot of our other stuff. But they sure do want access to our market. They sure want to come in here and sell whatever they want at whatever price they want. It is so one-sided, it's not funny. Well, it's getting back into balance, and it took a businessman like Donald Trump to do that. The worst thing that we could do is put a career public service lawyer who messed up 3 hurricanes and closed our churches, schools, and workplaces, and put him in the Senate. Because what's going to happen is, folks, he's going to make Biden look competent. And I don't think there's a whole lot of people who can do that. But Roy Cooper will.
Wow. Yeah. Sometimes talking about Roy Cooper makes my head hurt. So I've talked to a lot of voters over, the past year that we've been doing this. And something that I've heard continuously is constitutional carry. I know you're very pro-gun.
Yep.
As a senator, how will you use your influence to help try and nudge that along?
Well, let's begin with the role of firearms in our society and in our country.
Okay.
We are a free and independent nation today because of firearms.
We are.
It was firearms and firearms owners that achieved our independence and kept us free. That's really the truth. That's how I look at it. As your next United States Senator, everything I do, every breath I take when it comes to public safety and it comes to firearm ownership will always begin with the Second Amendment. Folks, there's a reason why it's the Second Amendment. And it's not the 12th Amendment or the 20th Amendment. It's the second. The first one is free speech and free religion, free association. The second one is the right to keep and bear arms.
The second one protects the first.
Because the second protects the first, because the drafters understood that look, let's get off this, the firearms themselves. Whether someone uses a firearm or uses a car or uses a knife or uses whatever, if they want to hurt somebody, they'll do it. Let's get to the motivation behind all that. The motivation behind all that is, at the very beginning, the patriots did not and would not rely on a foreign king and a foreign power to protect themselves. They protected themselves and their families if they had to. And when they had to get together to do that in the form of a militia, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the protection, that's what it says in the amendment. That was because people were getting together to claim and protect their freedom, protect their families. If you can't look at this debate and start with that, then you're going to get everything else wrong, in my view. every conclusion that you reach will be erroneous because you haven't begun with an appreciation for for that fundamental truth. Now, fast forward 250 years this year. Fast forward 250 years to where we're at now. Sorry, it'll be next year, 2026. And where are we at now with it? Is there, gun violence? There's horrible gun violence, and we know that. Take the implement out of the equation. Again, if it's not a gun, it could be a car, it could be a knife. Take the implement or the weapon out of the equation and go back to the source. Overwhelmingly, gun violence is committed as a result of domestic violence, workplace violence, road rage. I don't think that I'm getting out of line here when I'm saying that people who, it's like this kid down at Florida State who did this shooting. I'll bet you look into the background of these shooters who commit these crimes, and 99% of the time they got a record. They've already been harassing people, hurting people. They've had interventions and orders put out against them. They've already done time for theft and larceny, and they've done all that. Go after the people who are victimizing the rest of us who are law-abiding, pay our taxes and do the right thing. Go after them, throw the book at them, lock them up. Don't be soft about it. Be hard on them. When you do that, the violence is going to fall. It does at every single place that's been the case. The most gun restrictive laws in the country are where? Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C. The most restrictive gun laws. The least restrictive are where? The West, the South. Where's there more crime? Where's there more gun crime? I mean, do the math. Parts of Chicago, parts of New York City, parts of Washington, D.C. that you would be foolish. You'd be taking your life into your own hands in some of those areas. But I tell you what, if you want to try and go and break into somebody's shed on their property in Alabama or Mississippi or North Carolina or Montana or Wyoming, you're going to pay the price, as you should. Yeah. and that goes back to that fundamental basis of who we are as a people. We protect ourselves, we protect our families, we protect our property. That is who we are as Americans. No one else in the world has that history. Canada doesn't have it. Mexico doesn't have it. Nobody else has it but us. We're not going to give it up. We will not give that up. That's core to our identity. That's who we are as Americans. We're a free people, and that was conveyed in the Declaration of Independence, and it was certified and put in law by the Constitution. And nobody can change that, and nobody will. And as your United States Senator, I tell you what, I will be on guard. I will be on guard vigilantly defending that right forever, for everybody.
I love that. So, we're talking about bills and rights and things like that. Oh, I want to know, what are your thoughts on the Parents' Bill of Rights? And it keeps getting a lot of controversy. A lot of elected officials are trying to do away with it. What are your thoughts on that?
What's controversial? What is so objectionable about involving parents in the material that is in schools?
Yeah.
And look, why? And there's a further and deeper question on that. Mm-hmm. What is this motivation to fill school libraries with books about stuff that shouldn't even be taught to kids, kids shouldn't even be exposed to, and certainly parents would object to? Mm-hmm. Who is so determined to put in front of my kids or anybody else's kids a whole bunch of books about choosing your sexual identity?
Yeah.
And choosing your sexual preferences and all that? Why is there such a determination to do that? If a young person, and I work with young people every day in the high school, and I've coached them for years, if a young person is struggling, and there are a lot of kids who do struggle, a lot of young people who struggle with questions of identity, struggle with questions of abuse, struggle with questions of deprivation and violence at home. I see that as a football coach, okay? I see that in the classroom all the time. They need our compassion. They need our support. Mm-hmm. They need the love and support that they may not be getting anywhere else. But there's a big difference between that and then taking this woke agenda, this left-wing woke agenda, which comes right out of colleges and universities and go straight in the classroom and pushing it on them. What you're going to do is you're going to take a messed up kid who's got questions about their own life and who they are, and you're going to try and make it even more messed up and make them even more doubtful. What, I simply cannot understand what the determination is to do that. Is there groups and people in this country who hate families so much? Is it so objectionable an idea that there's a mama and a daddy? Does it make them so sick to think about that? That there's a mama and a daddy and kids who love and respect their parents. Honor thy father and thy mother. Is that so offensive to people? Well, maybe there is, because you know what? We got a big country, 385 million people. You're going to have a lot of people with different views and opinions, and not all of them we're going to like. But I tell you this right now. That view that doesn't like families and doesn't like traditional standards and traditional morals is not going to be the prevailing one. Not while I'm around, and certainly not while I'm your United States Senator. That's not going to be the prevailing view. We're not going to stamp it out. People can have whatever views they want. They could wake up one day and think that they're a chipmunk. I don't know what they're going to think. But I know what I think, and I believe what most, the overwhelming majority of folks in North Carolina believe. And North Carolina, I love this state so much. We have a state motto, esse quam videre, to be rather than to seem. We're not the loudest people in this country. We don't go and shove it down people's throats the way other people do. But we are a traditional, conservative, family-based values state of people. And we always have been.
I love that answer. Yeah, there was actually a Democrat official that stood up at a school board meeting a few weeks ago, not ours, and they said that children have a right to view pornography. It's protected by their First Amendment right. And I read that and I almost got nauseous. It was...
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this right now. They show any of that stuff to my kids.
Yeah.
They'll answer to me. Children have a right not to have a whole bunch of disgusting, godless values shoved down their throat all the time by elements and interests that don't understand the people of this state and, frankly, don't understand most of America. Kids have a right to be protected from that. That's the risk.
Yeah.
That's the threat. The threat's not families.
Yeah.
The threat is not families. The threat's not values. Do you think that, so many values and churches and families and churches and whatnot are going out and messing up kids? They're not. They're saving kids. I see it. They're saving kids. Yeah. Look, not every family looks the same. I would like to say that every family's got a mama and a daddy and kids that love their parents. My mom died when I was 16 years old, left my dad and my brother and me. There was just the three of us. It was a hard life. It was hard on a number of levels, but it was hard when you were in school and you knew that someone had a mama to go back to and we didn't. But I tell you what, there was a lot of good people in family and friends and in church who stepped forward and gave all they could to try and fill that void. Our responsibility as Christians, doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or not, our responsibility as people is to look around us and see wherever there's people, especially young people, that is going through things like that, is to help and fill the void. Help and fill the void. Put the hand out, help them get back on their own 2 feet, pat them on the back and tell them that everything's going to be okay. That is our responsibility. It is not to take a whole agenda thought out by some PhD in education somewhere in Boston or wherever, and then export that straight into the brains of our kids. That's not looking after kids. That's child abuse. And what I will do as United States Senator is, first of all, I'll look for that stuff, and secondly, I'll stop it if I can.
Great. That's what we need desperately around here. Yeah. So thank you for that. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Oh, just thank you for the opportunity. I've got a big hill to climb. I'm running against a 2-term incumbent who's been in 12 years, is going for 18. He's got a ton of money. What do we got in our campaign? Well, we got several hundred volunteers, and we got a whole bunch of determination and a whole bunch of conviction. I would say to anybody, get on board, www.andynilsson.com, ANDYNILSSON, andynilsson.com. Go there, volunteer, send me email. I'll write you back every time. If you want me to call you, I'll call you. It doesn't matter to me. Need your help. Need to get through this primary. There are going to be other people, who run in the primary. That's fine, whatever. That's their constitutional right. The biggest risk that we as conservatives can run is split the vote. And that's something that Senator Tillis has relied on the last 2 times, is that everyone on the conservative side is going to get split up with 8 or 9 or 10 candidates, and he'll sail right in. Let's just try and keep that down. I've been in touch with some of the other candidates, and I feel like some of them will endorse me by the time the primary comes around. But we need to get behind one conservative candidate. I'm asking that it be me, and asking for your vote. Let's get behind one conservative candidate, back them 100%. If I can't beat Tom Tillis in the primary, I'll beat him in the runoff. I'm sure of that. So, folks, if I'm not your number 1, I'm going to be your number 2. Please make me your number 2 if I'm not your number 1, because if I can just get in head-to-head with Tom Tillis in the runoff, I'll beat him. And then we can go into the general election, Roy Cooper. And I'll tell you this right now, I'll give Roy Cooper the kind of campaign he has never seen. He will never have experienced an opponent like he will in me. Not personal, not ugly, because I don't play that way. But it's going to be hard-hitting. It's going to be issue-based. It's going to be energetic. It will be nonstop. And I will take that campaign to him every single day of the week until I beat him in November.
Yeah, I love that. I hope you publish his answers to your questions.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read
Yeah,
that.
and mine. And not all mine's are going to be right. I know that. At the end of the day, I got nothing to hide. I have not been perfect. I made mistakes in my life like we all have. But I do have a pretty clear idea of why I'm doing this, and I need your help to do it.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming today. We really appreciate it. It's
Thank
been
you.
great.
Thanks, Abby.
Until we hear from you next time, stay informed, stay involved, and stay fired up. Have a good one.